Hi piano kids, my name is Denis Zhdanov and welcome to my new blog about the efficiency of piano playing. I'm recording this right in the middle of the massive pandemic lockdown, when all the cultural events postponed or cancelled, as well as all my artistic activities. So I decided to follow a Franklin D. Roosevelt brilliant advice. Do what you can with what you have where you are. So I'm going to share with you the most essential aspects of the piano playing which I have understood during my 20-year experience. This video covers the very basic and therefore very important issues. I usually explain that to the beginners at the very first lesson. Today I will give you 3 tips about the correct hand position. So here we go. But before we start, I would like to ask you one question. How high do you sit and do you know why exactly? Everyone sits differently, and that's why we have an adjustable bench. But this is quite an important question, which is proven by the fact that some musicians travel with their own specially designed bench, because standard models are not high or low enough for them. So why is it important? Because your choice influences how you feel at the piano, the quality of the sound you produce, and the quantity of muscle effort you need to produce the sound. Of course, this is a very personal thing and you have to find something which suits you best. It is just important that you check all the options and know about pros and cons. I would just quickly explain why do I prefer to sit the way I sit. Because it allows me to use gravitation instead of muscle efforts. The basic principle which I follow is to hold your elbows not lower than the keyboard. Otherwise you use more muscle effort, and the volume of the sound you get as a result would be not as powerful. Overall, if I sit too low, I feel rather like a mouse climbing onto an elephant. When I sit too high, I feel like I'm losing a control in the most tricky passages. But in this position, which is optimal for me, I can maintain good control and use less energy, using the weight of my hands instead of muscle effort. For example, I could play very loud, very big chords barely without any effort. And now let's finally move to the main topic of this video. Frédéric Chopin used to explain the correct hand position using this spot on the keyboard with 3 black keys. So place your long fingers, namely the 2nd, 3rd and 4th, on those black keys. And your shorter fingers, the thumb and pinky, around on F and C. Now try to curl all your fingers. When we explain that to beginners, we ask them to imagine that they hold an apple in their hand. Where's my apple? Whatever you play, please make sure you don't bend your fingers. They should be curled up all the time. We need a lot of concentration on the tips of our fingers. But if you bend your fingers, and usually it happens with the 4th finger, you can't control the key properly. And you can even hurt yourself. So let's sum up tip number 1. Well curled fingers, concentrated at the tips. So tip number 2. It is very important to keep your thumb slightly curled up as well. We don't use that way of playing. Because if you play like that, with your finger straight, you actually use incorrect muscles, which provoke more tension in your thumb. Instead, we try to find support in it and lean on it, which is only possible if it is curled. It is also very common for new students to take away the thumb from the keyboard, like they're trying to hide it in a pocket. So then you need to bring it back suddenly when you need it. Make sure all your fingers remain on the keys, ready to use. And tip number 3 finally is flexibility of your wrists. Your wrists should be approximately on the same level with the keyboard. Try to play with your fingers and not your wrists. Very high or very low wrists will always slow you down and put a lot of tension on the hand. A simple test to find out the correct position of your wrist is to place your hand a bit further over the keys and then slide back. So why is it important to keep your wrists relaxed? Our wrists execute many functions, but they can manage them only being completely relaxed. So what do we need our wrists for? Function number 1 is cushioning the shock. If I play a loud chord with a locked wrist, the sound will be very straightforward and horrible. So what I prefer to do is to have my fingers really strong, but my wrists cushion the hit. I also use my wrists a lot to release the tension while holding the chord. Otherwise, I will spend a lot of energy holding it. Function number 2 is a connection between distant notes. In such structures like this one, I use one of my middle fingers as a pivotal point to use those wide notes, which I play with my 5th finger, with my pinky and my thumb. And function number 3, however I'm sure there are many more, is releasing the tension in repetitive structures like trills. For example, with a relaxed wrist, I can play something like this trill as long as I want. Or at least till I get really hungry. But with a locked wrist, I can't withstand long. I will be exhausted pretty soon. Now, a small point why I do all this. The questions which I have been asking myself during last several years are: is it possible to practice less but to have better results? Does it really matter how you practice? So the goal of this blog is to find ways to practice actually less, having better results. Because we are often told to practice a lot, but not that often we hear how exactly. And practicing means finding a solution first of all. And very often, an analytical approach to the problem can spare you a lot of practicing hours. We will be also discussing the concept of short-term versus long-term technique. Why do some artists perform brilliantly for decades, while others get some health problems such as hand issues after just a few years of intensive career? So another goal of this blog is actually to analyze and demonstrate which technical approaches might be both efficient and safe in the long run. In the next video, I will explain to you how to play without tension in your hands, and how to significantly decrease quantity of effort and increase the speed of your playing. So thanks for watching this. I hope you found some useful information for you. Please subscribe, like this video, and have fun playing piano.